Hi, I'm Lee Levison-Perrine, and I'm the Community Engagement Manager at the DC Creative Affairs Office. Welcome to our Care for Creatives community conversation featuring Dr. Mary DeRaedt and Easy Street as they discuss the benefits of play. After watching this episode, head on over to creativeaffairsdc.com to learn more about our Care for Creatives program. Through a partnership with George Washington University, we are able to offer Pay What You Can mental health services to local creatives.
Hi, I'm Dr. Mary DeRaedt, and I'd like to welcome you to today's Care for Creatives community conversation. I'm looking forward to a fun conversation with Easy Street about one of my favorite topics, play. And before we get started, Easy, maybe you could introduce yourself.
So good to see you today, and I'm excited about this conversation because I'm a creative, and I'm glad that you care about us.
Well, that's why we started this program, so absolutely.
So tell us about the program. What is Care for Creatives program?
Care for Creatives is a collaboration between the counseling department at George Washington University and the Creative Affairs Office to provide pay what you can therapy for creatives across the city of DC. We started it around the time of the pandemic, but it really is there just for anyone that is in need of support and services. And you can get therapy, solution-focused short-term or longer-term therapy through our clinics at GW. We have one in DC and we have one in Virginia, in Old Town. But as a part of that, we've also wanted to promote concepts and ideas about mental health and healthy self-care and healthy approaches to life. And so as an offshoot of that, we've also been doing these community conversations just to promote ways for people to understand more about the way their brain works and how their brain and body are all combined to create kind of this idea that we have of mental health. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I'm so excited that we're having this discussion because, in the community at large, in the African-American community at large as well, we know that it's stigmatized. You say you got a therapist, people think that there's something wrong with you, but I think it's healthy. I've had a therapist for the last 10 years now, and he has really helped me tremendously to be able to process and live a better and more healthy life, because especially in the time that we're living in right now with, coming out of the coronavirus, hopefully this is all over. But I think that the entire world probably needs therapy after this. Wouldn't you agree with that?
I would totally agree with that. I think that we all at this point need to be talking to someone about all the experiences that we've had in the last few years. The escalating levels of challenges in mental health are just off the charts at this point. So we need more therapists. So I'm going to put a plug in for more people to go and get their degree in counseling because we need more therapists out there, definitely. And I think the other thing about this topic today about play that is part of that is that we also have spent so much time just engaged in such a serious and kind of fear-based aspect of life that we all need to kind of re-engage that play aspect. And that's one part of Care for Creatives that I forgot to mention, which is that we do within that, the protocol for that approach is we do incorporate some aspects of playfulness into helping people learn how to kind of cope with things day to day, because it's such an important part of it.
I'm glad you brought that up because I love to play. I mean, if I'm going to be doing all the work that I do with the radio, the television, the government contracts, being a father and all these other things that add stress to our lives, we have to find creative ways to be able to relieve that stress, and play is one of those. So I'm glad we're talking about that. Absolutely. Wonderful. So why did you decide to incorporate play into what you do?
Well, it started with working with children because I think we all kind of think play is something that only children do. But the more work that I did as a therapist, so I am a professor at GW, but I am also a practicing therapist, and I've worked with children and adolescents for about 20 years. And before that, I was a school teacher. And so working with kids and understanding the importance of incorporating playfulness into whatever they're doing, and then actually really kind of digging into the fact that neurologically, play is how children's brains make sense of everything. It's literally their way of learning. And so when we take that and take it and apply it across the lifespan, we see that actually playfulness helps us learn across our lifespan. It's not just kids. And so I kind of started by focusing on the value of playfulness for children and child-centered play for children and from a therapeutic lens, and then transitioned into realizing that it goes beyond just mental health. It moves into learning, education, social skills, everything. It's just a holistic way of addressing a lot of challenges.
You just triggered so many questions and comments right now. Okay, so my mother lives in the Midwest, and she has a house, and behind the house, there's a playground, there's an elementary school, and you hear kids yelling and screaming and having so much fun all the time. Then across the street from my house, I see kids out there. There's a little playground out there. They're jumping and they're making all this stuff. I'm like, why do kids scream and yell when they play? They're having so much fun. But I want to know this, and I know this is probably off the script, but how do we lose that as adults, that playfulness as we become adults and get busier with life? And how do we change that? How do we fix that?
Well, that's two questions. How do we lose it and how do we fix it?
Yeah.
We'll start with how do we lose it. So how do we lose it is that, I mean, that's different for everybody. But generally speaking, we have this, like when we get to adolescence, there is this cultural understanding that somehow play is only for kids, right? That term play means that it's only for children. And so one of the things that happens that I've seen happen for adolescents is that they start kind of trying to understand their identity and who they are, and they want to take on that adult persona and this false sense of, oh, I'm adulting. That term, I'm adulting, I actually wrote an article about how we need to get rid of it. But this idea that I'm adulting, I need to be serious, I need to be paying bills and dealing with stressful things is a false one. But we kind of adopt it in adolescence as this like all or nothing. I'm either a kid or I'm an adult. And that just doesn't work, because you have to be both. You're always both. And so we start to tend to lose our playfulness around adolescence, young adulthood. And then the older we get, the harder it is to kind of incorporate it back in. So I love I'm kind of a neuroscience geek. And there's another concept behind this that is that our brain until we're about 25 is really neuroplastic naturally, and play taps into that. And yet around the age of 25, it starts to have to be neuroplastic by intention. So we have to start choosing to be playful, choosing to engage in those things to maintain our neuroplasticity after 25. So that's another reason why people start to tend to be a little less playful as they get older, because they don't realize that they have to actively seek it out in order to kind of maintain the benefits of playing. Does that make sense?
It makes all kinds of sense. So we need to reprogram our neurological, what do they call it, pathways? Is that what it is?
Yeah, neural pathways.
I know a little something, Doc. So how do we get back to that?
How do we get back to that? So I think first and foremost, it's acknowledging that it's not real, that that there's a false understanding that it's not something that we do. And also to take away the idea that play is just toys, right? I think as adults, we think, oh, if I'm not playing a game, if the word play isn't in it, right? Playing a game, playing with toys, doing something like that, that it's not play, that it's just it's a child's game. And so taking into consideration and understanding a more adult version of what play means, which is that it's expanding your creativity. It's engaging in low stakes learning that is new and novel and allows you to just let endorphins run and feel good and dopamine and make connections, because when those things are kind of firing in your brain is making new connections. And so like allowing ourselves opportunities to do new things, to try new things, and to do it with an attitude that I'm just going to see how this goes, right? I'm going to see what happens. I'm going to be open to the possibilities. And when we do that, we're playing, because we're not being super serious about it. That's one of the distinctions that you can see made over lots of different research, which is when we're serious and intense about something, we tend to kind of pull ourselves out of that playful mindset. When we're just looking at, I wonder what'll happen if I go try taking a pottery class, or, start kickboxing for the first time in my life, or, I don't know, jump out of a plane or do something new that I've never done before. If I'm just doing it because it'll be fun and interesting, then that's play. That's us playing.
Well, Doc, I have a whole list, and I'm going to give you my entire list, and then I want to hear yours too. because I think you have to have I think you really at this point, I mean, I'm a seasoned gentleman, and as you get older, I think you have to be intentional about creating your playlist. Get it? Playlist.
I like it. Okay. I like it.
See how I did that? Okay, so here's my playlist. Massage therapy.
Oh.
Yes.
On my playlist too. 100%.
Yeah. I'll say number 2 is I get pedicures. Don't judge me, fellas, if you're watching this. I get pedicures. That's on my playlist. And these are all things that we can all do in this country. We're gonna go international in a little bit, but just in riding my bike is on my playlist.
Yeah.
Reading is on my playlist. Movies on my playlist. Nature walks. Behind my house, I have a trail. I'm walking out in nature as much as I can, taking deep breaths. That's on my playlist. Wow, boy, I have so many things that I have intentionally placed into my life that have helped me tremendously to be able to cope, especially in the time that we're living in right now. Of course, me DJing music, just having fun, mixing it up. And I like what you said about doing new things. So, Doc, I don't know if you know this or not, but guess what I did this last year? My new play toy is a drone.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I fly a drone, and I capture footage. I edit it because I also do digital media creation as well. So that's my new toy that I play with. And then my ultimate play is vacationing. I've been around the world, and I travel alone a lot. I've been to Africa, Jamaica, Brazil. I've been to London. I've been to Amsterdam.
Awesome.
I've been to Costa Rica, Dominican Republic, St. Kitts, so many different places. And I'm going on vacation to play some more on Friday.
Excellent. That's awesome. I need to go on vacation a lot more than I am.
You should. So now you got to give me your list. What's on your playlist?
All right. So my playlists, it's kind of overlaps yours a little bit, because definitely massage therapy. I think that just incorporates so many really amazing, I'm not going to editorialize. I'll just tell you my playlist. So I like to, massage therapy, reading. I like to, working out is kind of playing for me. This is going to sound maybe counterintuitive, but I've recently, just in the last few months, gotten very much into weight training. And I had never done that before, but I'm having fun. I'm just trying new things and learning new ways to move and stretch and all that. So I think that's been something that is my newer way of playing around and playing. I also like to kind of take walks out in nature, engage in nature. I like to actually read outside, because that kind of makes it feel like an event, feel like a fun thing for me to do. I actually love to listen to podcasts about mental health things and neuroscience and any kind of I just listened to a book about 10% Happier, about meditation. And for me, that's playing. It's fun to think about the way my brain works and how things engage. But I also just kind of surround myself, because this is in my field. I surround myself. I don't know if you can see my office behind me. There's a whole shelf of toys back there. And I surround myself with playful things. And we'll do things like sitting in my office. I have this little world globe that I'll just throw against the wall and play catch with myself. And I know this is an embarrassing one, but no one's listening, right? It's just us. I also like to just play new music at my house and just dance around my house when I'm by myself, and just engage in that and learn the song and feel free and enjoy myself. So that's a good way to play, is to learn new music, engage in new music. Another one of my favorite toys in my office, and because I promised I would share some of these are my Yoga Joes.
Wow, look at that.
Yep, they're all Army men posed in yoga poses.
Okay.
To show that even Army men do yoga. It's a healthy, good thing.
I'm a Marine Corps veteran, and I do yoga poses all the time.
Exactly. It's awesome.
Yeah. Especially as we get older, we have to, keep our bodies agile, and, that whole thing of flexibility is part of life. You have to have it. I mean, you stop moving. Hey, whoa, wait a minute. What are we doing?
Yeah. Well, and honestly, it's interesting. Yoga brings up a really interesting part of play, which is that you're doing the same poses over and over again, but play requires novelty. And when you're in a yoga class or you're doing yoga and the person is like adjusting you or telling you a new pose to try, that's playful. That's your brain engaging in creativity. So even in something that's kind of structured like yoga, you can make it playful by learning new ways of doing it and engaging in it. Yoga is another one of my favorites. I definitely.
That is your jam.
With yoga. Yeah. It's a great thing to be stretched and strengthened.
Mm-hmm. Gotta have it. It's a must. So now, how does this, we kind of talked about this earlier, is about how these things affect your mental health. But for somebody that's looking at this right now, that's trying to get started on, where would you tell them to begin this process of doing these new things and integrating these types of things that we're talking about into their lives?
Yeah, no, Easy. That's a really important question, because I think my guess is that there's going to be people listening to this going, I'm depressed. I'm anxious. I have so much on my plate. And now you're just telling me I need to add something else. I need to try to play and enjoy it. And so when you are struggling with depression and anxiety and mental health issues and just an overbooked schedule and just too much on your plate, it's hard to think, now I have to push something else, or I have to try to enjoy something. It's hard to make yourself enjoy something. It's not really an easy thing to do. So my suggestion is if that's where you are, if you're at that point, then just try to find something that happens in your day where you can try to make it a little different, choose to do something different. One of the suggestions I read was, if you have a commute every day that drives you crazy, give yourself 5 extra minutes and take a different route. Just do something new, and just do it because you want to, because it could be fun. If that's not your jam, if driving is too stressful and that doesn't seem like it'll really be useful, then try cooking. Try cooking something if you don't cook. Like, just experiment with cooking anything at all. Buy something you can cook and try it, and just do it with intention to just try to have fun. Because we sometimes think, well, I have to feed myself, or I have to feed my kids. I have to, do my work. I have to do these things. But just changing our mindset a little bit and saying, I'm going to do something I need to do in a playful, fun, new way, can start to really incorporate that into our day-to-day experience. Another thing is that art is a really good way to be playful, to color. Some people really like to color in the lines, and it's really therapeutic to sit there and color inside the lines in a coloring book. And other people just really enjoy getting out some crayons or markers or pastels or whatever is your favorite medium, and just kind of exploring the page and just drawing on the page and scribbling all over the page. I like to just make splotches of color on pages while I'm in a notebook that I have to engage in that part of my brain, and just spending a few minutes coloring and doing something artistic, or even finding something like, I have this thinking putty that it's just slime, but I can just it's slimy stuff, but I can just sit here.
Wait a minute. Hold on, Doc. You got the slime. Let's see. Oh my goodness.
I got the slime.
Where do I get that from?
You can order it online. You can get it a lot of different places.
Okay, there we go. Shout out to Amazon. Bring it right to the house in 3 days.
You can buy it even, I don't know if I'm supposed to name, but local stores also sell it quite often. And there's lots of different kinds. This kind actually turns colors as your hands warm it up. Okay. So it's kind of fun to play with it, and you can shape it into different things. That's kind of a creative outlet. And just finding things like that to do on a day-to-day basis can start you down the road of playing. And then maybe if you're a little farther ahead than that and you are looking for ways to play, some of the stuff you mentioned, Easy, would be great. Like trying a new experience, maybe trying yoga, trying a new book, doing a new thing that you've never done before, and doing it with the intention of just having fun.
Maybe we need to start watching our children a little bit more closely and kind of just be like them. I'm not saying regress, but I'm just saying kind of get ideas on how we should be having this happiness, how we should be having this joy, how we should be screaming at the top of our lungs. Maybe we need that. And maybe that's something that's good for us mentally, emotionally as well. What do you think about that?
I absolutely think it's important. That screaming is stress relief. that screaming, it is like releasing all the stress pent up inside of them. And it's enjoyable when, I don't know if you've ever screamed really, really loud for no reason, just to let it out.
Yeah, I do that in the club every Saturday night.
There you go. You've got that built into your life. I have to find places to build it in, but I think just letting our voices be loud and just enjoy it, and just like screaming like kids. I know that when I was in college, whenever it was exam week, we would have one night of the exam week where we would all open the windows of our dorm rooms and do primal screaming. So it's just like the whole campus was people just screaming at the top of their lungs out their windows as loud as they could. And it's just so therapeutic. So absolutely, we need to watch kids and see how much they're just having fun. There's no intention. They're not thinking, oh, I'm learning how to have more self-efficacy by climbing this ladder over and over again and they're just going, oh my gosh, I did it this time. Watch me do it. I did it again. Let me show you. Right. And if we can just enjoy and pull in that mindset, it will just be massively stress relieving for all of us.
Okay. Of course, I am a creative. Like, how does the stress affect our creativity? Because our kaumba, of course, that is a Swahili word. That is a word that we use for Kwanzaa, our kaumba. Like, how do we maintain that kaumba even though that we have these stresses going on in our lives?
Yeah, that's a tougher question, because it's hard when we have things pulling us out of the mindset of, I like that kaumba. That's a good word. I think that one of the things that we have to do, I think therapy, first of all, is a place to start with that, to try to engage our mind that way, but also recognize that, and I said this a little bit before, but recognizing that when we're stressed, we get this like tunnel vision. And if we're working in a creative field, or even just in an area where we need to think flexibly in our job, that tunnel vision is a like killer, right? It's going to destroy our ability to do our job, and it's going to make our experience harder, because we don't have that expanded flexibility of thinking to say, oh, there's lots of options here. We tend to get very focused. And so I think just if we start in that stressed place by engaging in some self-care, getting a massage, doing some things that help us feel more relaxed and feel more engaged, and then intentionally engaging in something that is playful and intended to just open our minds, then what that does is it relaxes the fear center in our brain. It relaxes that fear and anxiety response and allows our prefrontal cortex and, our insular cortex and all these different parts of our brain to actually do the things and access the memory. Because it's interesting that anxiety decreases our access to memory. So when we are super anxious, we are less able to access all of the information stored in our brain. And so when we engage playfully, we open up that access and increase our memory access, which I think is an amazing aspect of play.
Dr. Mary, I think you just shrunk me. Let me explain something to you.
Okay.
So people always come to me, wait a minute, how do you have a radio show? How are you doing this television? How are you producing all these video? How are you doing all these podcasts? How are you I just got done producing a film with the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement on returning citizens and struggles. It's called Man Time, Their Struggles after incarceration. I'm creating, and this is what I've been doing for the last 30 years. And I just realized something. What my playfulness is what allows me and helps me to continue to be able to create. Thank you, Doc.
100%.
What is your Cash App? I need to pay you right now.
I'll give you my card afterward.
Wonderful. So let me ask you this. Most of my play is solo play, but then there's group play as well. Let's talk about solo play and also group play.
Yeah. So that's a really important distinction, because when we're playing with other people, when we're engaging in things with other people, it increases our social skills. It increases our ability to connect. And human beings, anyone who's heard me on these before has heard me say this before, but we learn to emotionally regulate in a social context, meaning that when we have strong emotions like depression, anxiety, or even happiness or sadness or anything, when we have another person there, it helps us to emotionally regulate. It balances out the emotional state. And so when we engage in play by ourselves, there can be a safety, a freedom that just kind of allows us to explore our own personal identities and multiple areas of identity. Whereas when we engage in group play, any form of play that we include someone in, that also stimulates our communication centers. It stimulates our ability to regulate our emotion, to kind of ramp it up and decrease it. And honestly, one of the biggest predictors of resilience in life is the knowledge and surety that we can manage our emotional state. And so when we engage in social play, that increases our ability to know for sure that if I'm having a big emotion, if I'm super upset about something, I can tolerate it better because I know that I could go play with someone or talk to someone or engage with someone, and that big emotion will be contained. And so it teaches us all, I mean, I could go on and on about everything it teaches us socially, but it teaches us to play in a group, all of these different social dynamics, and it increases our ability to be kind of savvy in our engagements with other people. Because if it's playful, you can make a mistake and say something to someone or engage with someone, and there's room to be like, oh, that was a mistake. Okay, I'm sorry, let's move on. I learned something, it's new. Whereas if it's too intense, there's not as much space for that freedom to kind of learn and be more able to engage with someone.
Mm-hmm. I was just thinking about my list, my playlist that I gave you, and I think that those were all solos. all of my playlists are all, and that's cool too. But so give me some ideas here. I need for the creatives that are watching. What are some good examples of group play that you would recommend to me?
Okay, so I think that first of all, any kind of sporting event, like any kind of sports, even whether you're just going to watch with a group of friends or you are engaging in it together with the friends.
I was at the game last night. I was at the Wizards game last night. We got the win.
Awesome. Excellent. That was a good one. That's a good way to play because you're watching play, but you're also engaging in it by talking to friends and talking about the game and all of the things that go along with it.
I know some Indiana Pacers fans were so upset with me because but I was releasing them endorphins just like you said, Doc.
There you go. And that's the most important part. And all my friends, I used to live in Indiana. All my friends in Indiana will forgive you for but so that's one way to do it in any sport. I mean, even like bowling or honestly, I just last night went and played skee ball and some sort of table game that I don't even know the name of, but it was fun. And we made up the rules and played and it was good. And that was, with friends. So I think finding things to do where other people are there with you. I think, depending on your area that you're in, I like to actually just go out with a couple of friends and find a place to get coffee and talk and have it not be super serious and not be work related. And that can be a group social play activity that you can do. But I think any of the things that you mentioned, even just reading a book that someone else is also reading and then engaging in connection about it and discussing it as it goes, or you can do the Netflix group watch on, not to
I like that. I'm feeling that. I am feeling that one right there.
Absolutely. I actually do this all the time with relatives I have around the country where we will watch the same thing at the same time on a video chat and we'll pause.
Wait. That's that new technology. Hold on. Don't. So you actually can watch a film. This is group play technologically with Netflix being involved. And then you can chat and watch the film at the same time with a group of people.
Yep, absolutely. Wow. I have sisters in California and Ohio. And
you gotta show me how to do this, Doc. Doc, you gotta show me how to do this.
It's great. It's really great. And it turns it into a social activity, like you're all in the same room together discussing the movie and engaging in it. And there's lots of platforms that let you do that now, which is really cool. Even video games. So video games kind of get a bad rap, but they are actually very interactive when you have other people there playing with you. So multiplayer video games where you're talking to people and, or I'm going to show my nerd here a little bit and tell you like LARPing. LARPing is like dressing up live action role play.
What is LARPing? What is like?
LARPing is live action role play.
Okay.
So like people will go places and like dress up like Harry Potter characters and act out like scenes and create worlds, or like Lord of the Rings, any kind of fantasy or sci-fi, where they dress up like the characters and engage in that. That is a social activity of playing. Where
and it's so popular. You're talking about those guys that do the cosplay and they're all dressed up and they go to the convention center and they're stopping traffic all over the place. You're talking about those people. Do you mean to tell me that is good for you mentally and emotionally?
Yes, it is. It is very good for you mentally and emotionally. I mean, I'm not telling you should dress up and show up, but hey.
Well, we have Halloween, right? I can do it once a year.
There you go. You can engage in it at Halloween. But that's a really great way to do it. Even like there's medieval festivals all over where people dress up and go to those. And again, it's like being a little kid and playing dress up, right? You're playing around with different aspects of your identity with other people there to see how that goes. And it can be really empowering.
I prioritize my play and I place a high priority on it. So what I like to do is, and for individuals that are watching this, and I want you to chime in on how you're doing it. Okay. They say that we should exercise 3 times a week. I'm thinking what I try to do is I try to play at least 3 times a week. And then what I'll do is I'll do it in the morning, early in the day, before I start getting into the busy part of my day with the phone calls, the Zooms, the texts, and all these meetings and where I got to be. I prioritize it in the morning time so I can go ahead and do it, get it out of the way, and enjoy the rest of my day. Is that how you do it, or do you do it in a different way?
So I don't necessarily do it in the morning. I think that, but I actually try to find at least some part of every single day to just do something playful, to do something where I'm having fun. That's why I have all this stuff around my office, and I kind of share it with people and stop in the middle of, if I'm feeling stuck when I'm doing something, I'll just like writing or something like that. I'll just stop and I'll grab my Yoga Joes or my snowballs, and I'll just do something fun and try to engage in that. So I kind of do it whenever it pops up. But exercise counts, right? So I also do that at least 6 days a week and incorporate some aspect of play into that. So I do have kind of some intentional time, and then I try to add in whenever I possibly can. And especially, so there's this word that I love called interoceptive response. And it's our ability to connect to when our body is starting to feel something. So people have all differing levels of it. But when you start to feel yourself getting stressed, if you are someone who is aware of what that feels like, and you go, oh, my shoulders are tense, my stomach is getting a little, stressed, recognizing that moment and stopping and going, I'm going to do something playful. I'm going to stop what I'm doing right now and just choose to go do something playful and see if that kind of helps me calm down and kind of come back from that high stress ledge.
Okay, so what we're talking about is self-awareness and emotional intelligence, right? You knowing when you're stressed out, knowing when you're the hairs on your arms start and your blood pressure starts to go up, and you're like, wait a minute, hold on, it's time to play.
Exactly.
Interesting. I learned something else from you today. Thank you for sharing that. But the other part about it is, it made me think about yoga. It made me think about meditation. It made me think about when you're in meditation and they say, okay, so we just finished our session, but throughout the day, if you start feeling a little something, you can be able to take these deep breaths right now to be able to offset that stress. Is that what we're talking about with your play?
Absolutely. That is the same exact concept. It is the ability to be, some people are very disconnected from their internal experience, and some people are a little too flooded by it, where it's too much in their face. And so absolutely being able to kind of find that moment when you're starting to feel something or checking in. Some people may need to intentionally check in with their body to figure out if they're starting to feel a little bit stressed, and learn how to recognize that. And meditation is a great way to start learning how to recognize that. But being able to recognize those moments, recognize what's going on in your body, and intentionally either step in with meditation or yoga, or step in with something kind of just fun and engaged and playful, that will help you kind of emotionally regulate. And whether you do it in a solitary way, or you reach out to a friend, get up from your cubicle or leave your table where you've been on Zoom calls for 5 hours and go find your kid and play for a little while and do something fun. Or, there's one we haven't talked about at all, but I think it's why pets are becoming so very much more like everybody has a dog, everybody has a pet, everyone has an animal, because pets are playful inherently.
Yes.
And having them there kind of engages our playfulness, which is such an important thing.
Wow, what an amazing discussion for creatives. And just for anybody that may be watching this, man, thank you so much. I feel like I'm about to have an amazing day. I'm going to find some way to play somehow, some way. Where can we be able to find you online to be able to connect with you if we wanted more information?
Yeah, so I have information on the George Washington University website because I'm the director of the school counseling program. And so there's contact information for me, information about my bio and things that I've done, and ways to just get in touch with me in case you want to, engage more with any of this information. So that's the best way to get a hold of me. How do they get a hold of you, Easy?
Follow me on the gram. Follow me on Twitter at Easy Street, or you can visit my website, theacademydc.com. I'm not hard to find at all. Turn on your radio, cut on your TV, and here I am.
Awesome. Well, I think the only other thing that I kind of want to do today is just give people options for things that they can do to kind of explore this topic more, if they will really want to dive in. And so my recommendations, and I would love to hear yours too, and what you think people should be doing. But there's a couple books that I think are interesting. One is called Spark by DeRaedt, R-A-T-E-Y. And he talks all about like neuroplasticity and how it's improved by play and how play specifically addresses that. And then I wrote it down so I could remember. And then there's another one called Play, How It Shapes the Brain by Stuart Brown.
Woo!
And so that's a really good book to kind of just, again, sometimes I feel like if we read a book about it, it makes us feel like it's real instead of just hearing someone say it. But other than that, I think I always recommend the Huberman Lab podcast, which is there. He did a session recently about play and how it affects our brain and how important it is. And then for listeners, and then anything else would just be buy yourself a coloring book. Any coloring book will do. Doesn't have to be an adult one. It could be a cartoon one. It could be anything you want, but just start with a coloring book because it's fun. What about you, Easy?
I'm just thinking how I'm going to play today. So first of all, when we're done, I'm going to scream out of my window like the kids do. Probably ride my bike around the trail one good time, get my heart rate up, listen to some, one of my, you know what? We didn't talk about this, but really quick, I just want to add this to the playlist.
Oh yeah.
There's something about this guy, The Weeknd. I love to do my cardio in bike riding to The Weeknd. It used to be Wu-Tang Clan and Mobb Deep, but I can listen to The Weeknd at any, and I only listen to him when I do my cardio. So I would recommend that when you're doing your play and you have music involved, find an artist that really goes with that play. That's one of the things that I just would add right there.
Awesome. I think I'm going to take that advice from you today and make a new literal playlist for my workout.
Awesome.
Thank you for doing this with us today. This was really fun. It was playful for me to just do this with you today, so it was awesome.
Good play. There you go, right there.
Thank you, Dr. Mary and Easy Street, for joining us for today's Care for Creatives community conversation. For all those watching, head to creativeaffairsdc.com to stay up to date on all things Care for Creatives. In closing, here are a few helpful resources. Do something playful every day. Engage in solo and group play, including sports. Spark by DeRaedt. Play, How It Shapes the Brain, Opens the Imagination, and Invigorates the Soul by Stuart Brown. Huberman Lab Podcast. Get a coloring book. Thanks for watching.